Most agents chasing the creator life want the reach, they want the brand, they want the followers. But they don't see is there's this backbone it takes to build one of these businesses. There's a team behind it, there's a life on top of it without losing ourselves inside of that chase for the algorithm. Today I'm talking to someone who didn't just become a real estate creator. I don't know if she'd call herself that, but I'm calling her that. She built a world called Minnesotan, led a brokerage, owns a brokerage, and used her voice in many ways, some that even costed her and even changed her. If you've ever thought maybe the creator avatar is for me, but I want it different. I want it maybe rooted in something, maybe not just reckless and random posting. This episode may be for you. So, welcome back to another Re-Education Experience podcast. I'm your host, Darren Langille. You usually get me solo, but when things line up beautifully, I want to bring on guests to kind of further unpack what it is that we've talked about. So you've heard me hear a lot of different series and frameworks, and we came through the 5 realtor avatars. And then I had to do a hard stop because I am not this version of an avatar. I am trying, but it's the creator avatar. The industry, when we are out there looking around online, we see a finished product. We see the creator avatar's finished product out there. We see the reels, we see the skits, we see the clips, we see the brand aesthetics, but we rarely can unpack the structure, and we just kind of sit there at awe to say, how am I going to do this? And they don't understand the cost to put this together. So today I wanted to bring on another creator who is more than just good at content. She is an amazing human being, but she's got a crazy, amazing background. So we'll just tap on it because I know she won't want me to just go down the rabbit hole of all of her background, but she is and went to law school and is a lawyer. Okay. An award-winning former photographer, a top producing agent and part of a huge team. We're putting up massive numbers right now as a partner, broker owner, and the founder of this Minnesotan brand, which is super fun, super cool. And I've seen her do nothing but fun stuff. This is a kind of a world I feel that you're just building around. It looks like faith, a big part, family, community, and then just the quirkiness of your state. So she's known for clever videos, if you follow her, and when you do after this episode, and her ability to just find a way to tell a really entertaining story. But she also has a spine. She has a spine behind it. There's teeth behind it. So Noelle Nielsen, welcome to the show. What did I miss? I mean, I'm sure there's a lot.
Goat farming. Thank you for not adding that. I'm trying to get away from that. And now I just...
Are you really?
But yes, hearing you describe it that way, I sound a little bit like a mad person. And maybe I am. Maybe I've just embraced my madness in life, and it's working.
I don't think you want to get away from the goats because you just brought it up. So I'm going to say.
It's funny because early on in my real estate career, I realized that you could easily brand yourself with things. Right. And the goat part of my life became an accidental branding piece. But prior to that, I branded myself initially with my son Winston. And if you're watching this, you just saw him bring me a coffee into my office. But he was about 4 when I got started, and I was living the mom life and trying to figure out, how do I embrace what I'm living while trying to do this job that we have that's supposed to be so flexible, but we all know as agents, our jobs are not very flexible. We are on demand for our clients. And so I started bringing him into the video aspect of marketing homes and letting him be the marketer. I got him a little red suit, dressed him up, brought him into my listings, let him show the listing because, as you mentioned, I was a photographer and videographer and was trying to get my clients to start seeing me as a realtor. And I still was not yet comfortable being on camera. And so I made him come on the camera and give a tour of some of I was very blessed. I had some luxury listings early on and let him give a child's perspective of these homes. And it kind of just blew up.
Yeah,
And that after that, I started learning like, okay, it's not that hard to brand yourself online if you can just figure out a way to show your own uniqueness and your true identity of who you really are. And a lot of agents are really scared to do that. They're really
totally.
scared to do that.
What years was that with the red suit
Yeah,
child
yep.
realtor?
Red suit realtor boy was in about 2016, 2017
Okay.
timeframe, about almost 10 years ago, which is crazy for me to think that it's been that long since I started those things. And if you're watching this podcast, I'm showing right now a little business card that I made of him with his little red suit.
Oh my
And I
goodness.
called him Realtor Boy, and I had this whole card that it just kind of took off. And at the end, he'd say, "Call my mom. If you're looking to buy or sell, call my mom." And what that ended up doing is it attracted clients that were living the same phase of life that I was in.
Mm,
And we have this saying in the business that we're in is your vibe attracts your tribe, right? Like what you're putting out is what you're going to get back. And so many people are afraid to put themselves out there. But the reality is, if they do that, they will actually probably get their ideal client coming back to them if they're putting their true uniqueness out there.
Have, finding that for you, a lot of agents, and I'm in the same boat. Is just I always say it. I'm still trying to figure out my voice. I'm trying to find out as I've evolved through my career. Where am I? What am I? What do I passionate about? But a lot of agents are just like, I'm trying to put food on the table, and it's like,
Yeah.
but they get spun into this. I have to be a realtor, and a realtor means this.
Hmm.
And then you flip this. Like, did you just have that confidence, have that courage? Like, where'd that come from to just throw this wild ideal out 8, 9 years ago when video was still like super fresh and not done by most?
Yeah. So I recently read a quote that said that oftentimes when you meet the most interesting entrepreneurs that you're going to meet in your lifetime, they're living on their second mountain, meaning they first tried something and then maybe it failed. Maybe they like came back down, they went into the valley, and then having that experience helped them to climb back up onto the second mountain that they were wishing that they had lived.
Oh, yeah.
I'm actually like living on mountain number three for myself. As you mentioned, I started as an attorney and realized very soon, very early in my career, my husband and I are both attorneys. We met in law school. I am not cut from the same cloth as most attorneys, and that's how I ended up in photography. During law school, I was just really on the struggle bus. Being a lawyer means sitting at a computer or sitting in a book and reading, writing, not a lot of FaceTime, not a lot of conversation. And I was dying for creativity. And so I picked up a camera and started messing around as just a way to have a creative outlet. And turned out that I was not bad at it. I was actually pretty good at photography. And so I started getting hired by clients from law school,
Mm,
really. I built up my base around who I was around, right? And I learned how to build a business within the network that I just had. And then because of that, as my career with photography and my business with photography took off, I just figured out how to network with from one business to another. And so when I moved to my third mountain, which was real estate, it was almost accidental. We needed to sell our home. The first realtor we had used wasn't that great on the first round. So the second round, I decided, meh, I'll just get my license and do it myself. I'm a do it myself kind of person.
sure.
And that one decision has just catapulted into a whole new journey that I never expected. And I think, when you said you're still trying to like figure out who you are, what are you putting online? Guess what? So am I. We are constantly evolving as people. If you're not evolving, you are probably missing out on what you're supposed to be. Like your purpose can change. What you want to put out there can change. And if you're not changing constantly, you're probably going to be feeling stagnant and stuck.
Totally. And I think you and I both know there's realtors that have been in the industry as long as us, or even longer. And you look at all the skills we've all had to develop over the last, say, decade, and quickly continuing to build. And then you can see like that gentleman or her is the exact same agent as she was a decade ago. And I'm like, if I was her client, I wouldn't want to hire her. So don't let that be me, because you should be evolving, you should be growing, you should be adding extra kind of tools in and whether that's confidence, whether that's creativity, whether that's upgraded listings, or whether you're just better now online. But there's a lot of people that, like you just said, are stagnant for a career. And
Absolutely. And they're
yeah,
probably not listening to this podcast, so we can rip them apart. Because
yeah,
the reality is the people that are wanting to learn and grow, they are doing things like listening to podcasts like this. They're doing things like attending events. They're constantly looking for something new. And I think for me, even back when I look into my photography days, I'm self-taught and I just started looking around like which photographers out there are doing what I want to be doing. What equipment are they using? How are they doing it? And that same skill set has come right along with me into real estate, into starting a team, into growing a brokerage, into now growing a very large network, and it's just like constantly looking for what ways can I enhance my life? How can I enhance my business? How can I enhance the lives of my clients or my teammates or the agents that
sure.
are with me? And with the evolution of AI and all the things that we're getting into, I mean, this world, it's constantly changing and you constantly have to be growing.
Do you think so? We kind of hit on something a little bit. Like you had that creative bug in law school, or even as a lawyer, and you realize I'm not getting that out. The photography, the videography kind of kicks on, lets you express that. You roll into real estate, that pulls you in, for whatever reason you ended up here, right? And then Red Suit Child, the realtor boy, is in the mix. Um, and then you said, well, I'm looking for how their setup is. I'm looking for which media they're, that to me screams, or pretty early on, like without the definition, is like you had this creator mindset, like this concept of like not just getting better, but this like, how do I do this differently, and how do I throw an angle at that? But I don't think everybody in real estate wakes up and has that bug. They might say, how do I improve my listing presentation, or they're really excited about their spreadsheets and their database, or they're like, how do I just network with more people, and how do I convert people at an open house, and they wake up. But the creator, in my opinion, does goes that they are thinking about that every night. They are thinking about these creative ideas. It's not a waste of time to save a whole bunch of posts, because you're like, that person's thing was sweet and I'm going to figure it out. You know what I mean? Like a creator does that skill set, and then the guy that just wants to do something else they're building a different. They can be curious, but down a different path. Do you hear what I'm saying?
Yeah, for sure. I think here we're going to get into some of the stuff that I know you're going to probably ask me later on, but we have all been created by the ultimate creator. And so in each and every single one of us, we have that drive to create something. We have that drive. And, we can look at the definition of what I'm doing as the more usual definition of being a creator, but any entrepreneur, and if you're in real estate, you have to be an entrepreneur. You are an independent contractor usually, and you are creating your business, finding your clients. You're creating something, and whether it's showing up online in a really unique way, or maybe you're just some of these really seasoned agents that I've got with me that have been with me for a long time that have just really established sphere of influence, with their clients. I can look at their business and see the areas where I would call them creative. It's just not the same way that I create,
Sure.
right? And I learned that if I created marketing online, I was going to leverage an audience and leverage my voice in a much more impactful way, more on a one-to-many instead of the one-to-one typical old-fashioned way of doing business. And so
Mhm.
a lot of those people that we would call the more traditional agent, they just need to view themselves in a different way. And so sometimes if you're struggling, if you're listening to this and you're like, oh gosh, I don't know what my creative side would be,
Yeah.
I would say ask a friend or two. Like ask somebody that knows you, that knows your business. They probably have to understand real estate a little bit, but maybe not. And ask them, hey, where in my life would you say that I am creative? Or where in my life would you say that I am, good at something? How would you define me? And sometimes getting somebody else's perspective of who you are and what you do is so helpful and can speak life into where you want to go. And if you
Yeah.
don't have somebody like that, gosh, you need a bigger circle, you need a better circle.
Yeah. Yeah. Fair enough. So you went the creative brand route, and you picked early the Red Suit Realtor Boy, and then you embrace this. Tell me about Minnesotan and like what that means to you, and like because that feels like an all in. Like I've defined a name, I've labeled it, I've created something behind it, and I'm living through this through my content, my pillars, my however. Can you share how you got to that? Because you don't accidentally land there, I don't think.
Yeah, well, it's funny. A Minnesotan has been in existence now for about 4 years. And when I created that idea, it was goofing around on GoDaddy. I was goofing around on GoDaddy looking for new URLs. I knew I needed to relaunch and rebrand my team. And that's a whole nother thing. That's a whole nother conversation.
Sure.
People that get stuck on a brand, right? And they're too afraid to pivot off that brand. And I'm like, hey, pivot away. I love creating new brands. It has never hurt me to pivot to a new brand. And so when I came up with that brand, I actually was just monkeying around with all things Minnesota on GoDaddy. And I typed into GoDaddy Minnesotan.com and it was available. Shockingly, it was available. It was not cheap, but it was available. And the reason why I was thinking about that is because in every conference, every podcast, every video, every post online, if I'm talking, people are like, oh, you must be from Minnesota. Sometimes I get confused as a Canadian, that's
Yeah,
just
you're
people that don't
almost there.
really,
Yeah.
yeah, people that don't really know. And so I knew that if we could find something that used our location in the brand, it would result in referrals and memory of who I am, where I am, what I'm about. Minnesota to me is a very unique place. I love being here. I even love it when it's in the negative degrees. I'm crazy that way. And so it has turned into something that's pretty cool. And now with that brand, and don't be afraid to put money into things. Like if you are really excited about something, man, buy the URL,
Right.
pay for a good brand designer. I mean, we paid a pretty penny to have the guy that did our brand help us with the brand. And the next step with that, we've been just sort of coasting on it because we've had a few other things going on over the last couple of years. But the next plan is that is going to become a merchandise company. We are working on it. We've had sweatshirts and t-shirts and hats and all sorts of stuff made for that.
Okay.
But then our real estate team can use it, wear it, give it as a gift to clients. We get recognized when we're wearing the shirts in the airports. And so it's turned out to be so much better of a brand than I even had envisioned that it would be.
So does that brand has been you said a little bit on the sidelines a little bit, but is it brought up on your socials right now? Is it part of like an email newsletter that you've taken on? Is there a YouTube channel around it, or what's the vision with that other than it sounds cool and it identifies you guys? Or was that the team name at one point?
It was Minnesotan Homes,
Okay,
because
gotcha.
I wanted to keep the brand itself separate from the real estate team so that we could do bigger things in the future with it. It will eventually be a newsletter. A lot of our teammates, including my business partner, who's also named Darren, who you know,
Hmm.
we use it on our handles on Instagram. So I'm known as Noelle the Minnesotan, and
Gotcha.
he's Darren the Minnesotan, and a lot of our teammates have taken that on. Um, and, just depending on if somebody is thinking about doing something similar, try to find a play on words, try to find something that is easy to brand to your location that people aren't like, oh yeah, what was that again? Or where are they at again? So many Instagram handles don't make any sense. And then when I'm like
Totally.
looking to tag somebody, I can't find them online because their handle doesn't make sense with what their business is or where they're at. Yeah.
So are you using Minnesota as a bit of a storyline too, so you can jump off of it and kind of take like mayor of your town type of concept as
Oh,
well with that?
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So a big time.
absolutely.
So the star is Minnesota, and you're
Yeah.
finding ways to deploy it. And if uh, Sharon would say, right, you give it a name and it got power, right?
Yeah.
So, and
Yeah.
like that's what you're saying. Don't be scared to give it something power and stand behind it, right?
That's right. Yeah.
The first company you had, Bright Birch, is that what it was called?
Yes. Bright Birch, which was looking back, I'm like, gosh, that was kind of a stupid name, but everybody liked it. People liked it. When I launched it, it was just me. It was just me, but I launched it because I knew I wanted to be bigger than me. And so I made a brand. My personal name, Noelle Nielsen, is like impossible to spell. Nobody can ever remember it. They are always getting it wrong. And so I just picked a name. And our tagline was the naturally smart choice in real estate. And we used like birch trees as our decorations all around the office. And I think it was in light bulbs. And I think it was just different enough, but I could brand with things that it was super recognizable. And by that time, when I launched it as we were a team first, and then we launched it as a brokerage, uh, it had some national recognition. People knew what it was. They would send me things that had to do with birch trees or light bulbs. All my teammates and people at my brokerage got behind it. And so then we started using the word bright as things within our branding. So I would do agent spotlights, because we were showcasing or highlighting and shining a light on
Sure.
things. And when I announced opening that brokerage, I actually did a video of walking out into the woods, and I was holding a light bulb, and I buried a light bulb, and it grew into a tree with light bulbs all over it. And some of those crazy ideas just, I don't know. People ask like, where do those ideas come from? How do you get those ideas? Well, I give myself a lot of thinking time. I have a lot of downtime in my day, that intentionally, so that I can think about things, so that I can come up with ideas. Because if you don't give yourself space, and a lot of times that space either needs to happen early in the quiet morning hours, and people just don't do that. They either sleep in, or they get up and get on the treadmill immediately, or they get going with their kids for the day. I tend to wake up very early and have quiet time with my
Sure.
coffee and thinking about stuff like that.
So that brings an interesting thought that I didn't have in my notes was so you've created these things. You've created these concepts. You've played on the GoDaddies. Things have worked itself through, right? You've done the small hands things. You've done the goat stuff. Like you've done a lot of that. But you and I know there's agents that will sit here and they're going to get going in their business and they're going to get fully stopped because they're thinking like, is this going to work? Is that the right thing? Does this logo look this way? And they just purely don't move ahead. And they get so fixated on these elements, but then their business doesn't move forward. How have you not only executed and keep the machine and not just been gotten so bogged down in like the creation side that like I was in Tom Ferry for years and I remember my first year in Tom Ferry and thousands of people online were talking about their brands and their logos and getting like creative responses and like you saw people do nothing other than logo creation for 6 months. And yet I'm so worried about that when we speak about a brand like what you've talked about, but seems to work naturally for you and you still execute it kind of in parallel. Can you talk to that a little bit?
I am also guilty though of sitting on my laurels for some ideas that I have. I've got a big one right now that I have not launched that I've been sitting on for 2 years. And so it's not that I don't ever sit on ideas because I definitely do. Man, if I did all of the ideas I had, it would be mass chaos. I think though that at some point you just have to realize like, if you don't take action at all, you'll never take action. And if you're okay with that, then we aren't the same. Like that is the thing. One of my favorite sayings is I will run with runners, I'll jog with joggers, but if you're going to just stand still, I'm not going to stand there with you. I'm going to keep going. And we all are running at different paces during our life. Like well, there's seasons of life where you have more energy. There's seasons of life where the creative ideas come more frequently. And then there's seasons that are slower. I also take giant breaks. And I have been in a big kind of social media hiatus break for the last couple of years, actually. I mean, it's weird because people say that doesn't make sense. I see you online all the time. I'm good at posting in my stories, and I do post on occasion, but I don't post nearly the pace that I was posting when I first launched Bright Birch. And that season probably is coming to an end of me being quiet. But I do think that in life, you need to pay attention to what season you're in. And if you're in a season, because you've just put yourself there of inactivity with excuses, that's a whole different thing. You need to get yourself out of that. And if you are hanging out with other creators and hanging out with people that are making a lot of content and hanging out with people who are creative, it kind of starts bleeding over into your own life, into your ideas. I've found that if I get in a room with somebody like Bob Tompkins, he and I will start coming up with the most crazy ideas ever. And they get crazier and crazier and crazier because our creativity will bounce off of each other in that way. Or like if you're in a room with people who are super entrepreneurial, you'll start getting ideas for that. Or if you're in a room with people that are amazing at investing, you'll start figuring that out. It's
Yeah.
the iron sharpens iron concept. And there's a saying, iron sharpens iron, but some of you are hanging out with butter knives.
No, yeah. I like that because we've all heard the first one, but the second part of that, there's always like a comma, but you're, hanging out with
Yeah,
her. I love it. That's a good one.
yeah.
So for your world, you've done a lot of different brand stuff, a lot of different social, and like you said, you've been quieter. could you think of a couple key pillars of your brand development that has truly worked? That you can be like, it was these moves, it was this frequency of X. There's something that say, okay, we've talked a lot about these options, these things you've built out, but where have you seen true success where you could pull it back to that translated to, real estate growth and, true influence being created?
Yeah. I mean, I already mentioned playing around on GoDaddy, but almost every single time that I have come up with a brand, it's me sitting on that little GoDaddy, page where you can just type
Yeah.
things in and it comes up with ideas. And I'll do that and I'll screenshot and screenshot and screenshot over and over, like all the different brand ideas that I have. Because if you can't create an online presence with a brand, or if one already is in existence, sometimes that's pretty tricky. So I'll always start that way. I'll start with that, and I almost use that as a journal of like, okay, these 10 ideas could work. Then I'll take those ideas to like my trusted people and say, hey, I have this idea. Is this good? What do you think? What do you think of this name? What does this name make you feel? How does that brand make you feel? And part of it is that a lot of times when these bigger companies are coming up with brands or brand concepts, they're doing ABC testing with different beta groups of like, does this give you feelings?
Right.
Right? Do you have any feelings when you see this, when you hear this, when you think of this? I think sometimes when people go wrong is they do nothing or they come up with no brand at all, or they just rely on their brokerage's brand. I mean, so many agents do that.
Yeah.
So many agents do that. Well, the client then isn't going to think of you, are they? They're going to be thinking of that brokerage's brand. They're not going to think of you
Yeah.
necessarily unless you do something super special with your brokerage's brand. And so I'll always start that way with coming up with a brand. And then the next step is drawing out literally with a pen and a piece of paper, drawing out ideas for a logo, drawing out ideas for what am I going to do with that. You have to have a logo to go with it. You have to have it because online, everything is so visual. People visualize everything. And this day and age, with Canva, and there's a thing in Canva called Canva Dream Lab. You can go in there and you can type your idea in. You can even put a photo in. You can put all sorts of photos in and then say, hey, can you help me come up with a branding kit? And it will give you back different pictures. And then you can do that. I mean, I will obsessively do this over things, and you can do that over and over and over and over again. But now I've gotten to the point where I will just pay a really good professional to do
Right.
it. So I have a guy now that I hire. We've hired him for all of our brands to do all of our brands because he's so good at it,
Totally.
and it gets a second set of eyes on it. And part of that is also coming up with creative copy, like
Sure.
the words of what does this brand mean? What is it supposed to convey? What are the feelings that you want clients to feel when they think of your brand? Who are you as as the service that you're providing? It's like what
Sure.
our law firm might look a lot different from Minnesotan, from this third brand that I'm
Yeah.
working on. Yeah.
So when you've established the brand and you've been running it, and where do you find you get the best success, like with your online? Is it short form? Have you been a long form YouTube type? Where do you find that you're seeing the brand work and then effort that is delivered churn to something where you're like, frick yeah, that's the way it worked. It's not just cool and it's not just well written, but it's translated to true revenue.
That's such a hard question right now because I'm in the process of reinvention on this. So early on, when Bright Birch started taking off, I had an office space, I had a full-time videographer, I had a set of characters, if you will, that were in the office every day, meaning the agents that were there, my admin that was there, even the videographer that was there. This was pre-COVID. And we were all there every day, physically in the office, creating content. And this was before Instagram was really video focused. This was before TikTok. This was just organic on Facebook. And I would post videos that would be anywhere from 3 minutes to 15 minutes long on Facebook. And they took off like this. Everybody that watched them loved them. I was able to help
Was
it
this kind of day in the life type stuff? Or
a little
almost like
bit,
little
or a
like
lot of
TV
it was
show
like,
type stuff?
I mean, we did skits. We did SNL. I love
Okay.
SNL. I love SNL, or the old SNL. And so I would go on YouTube and find clips that made me laugh. Like I always just wanted to make people laugh most of the time. I
Okay.
have very little of that stuff was serious. It mostly was just really funny. And I remember at that time I had left a Remax. I was at a Remax before I started my brokerage, and I had a broker that told me that video was a passing fad and that it was never going to be anything and I was going to fail because he was mad. He was mad that I was starting a brokerage.
Aren't they all? Yeah.
Yeah. But, looking back at that time, it wasn't really a proven concept yet. This was when video was just becoming a thing. And I had agents that were like, I don't get it. What's the point? What is
What's
the
the
point of
tie-in here?
that?
How does this work? Yeah. Yeah.
Right? But when you watch any really successful marketer or you look at commercials, I love studying good commercials. Half the time you don't know what the point is except for brand awareness.
Sure.
And people would ask all the time, well, what's your ROI on that? If I'm going to do that, I
Yeah.
need to know what the ROI is. Like, I don't know, my whole
Right.
business is the ROI. And I am still living off of the ripple effects of creating content early on that was super rememberable, super impactful to this day. It's how I was able to grow a network so quickly was just because I had developed a following of other agents who were watching, and half of them are haters, right? They're watching thinking, what is this person doing? Why are they doing
Mhm.
it? And I think, I just knew that I wanted to have fun with it. I wanted to have fun going to work. I loved making content like that. It was so fun. But now, today, with reels, with short form video, it's really interesting. I went to a YouTube conference in LA in 2021 timeframe. And I'll never forget, I'd been a huge fan of Peter McKinnon and Casey Neistat, who had these YouTube,
Yeah.
channels that I just loved watching. I thought, oh, someday maybe I'll be a YouTuber and I'll do that. And I'll never forget Peter McKinnon getting up on the stage saying that he felt like these short form videos, which were brand new at that time, were going to kill long form content. And he hated it. He hated it. He was not going to get behind it. Now, watching him over the last couple of years, he has evolved into figuring out how to tell a super impactful story in 30 seconds.
Right.
But what's also interesting though is Instagram first started with, 15 seconds max. Then they realized that's too short, so they pushed it to 30. Now it's up to like 3 minutes, I think. Now,
Yeah.
now you're getting back to long form content again. And
That's
it's
right.
because human brains need that. Like it's not good for our human brains to like scroll through Instagram. I don't even have TikTok. I don't even know if I'm going to get it, but to scroll through like Instagram, I feel like I just did drugs for like the last 15 minutes and they weren't good ones. Like I'm just like
Totally.
scrolling through and my brain like
You
hurts.
feel worse about yourself. Yeah. And everything. Yeah.
And so I'm currently in this phase of, and I had an hour and a half long call this last week with Brad McCallum, who happens to be one of my best friends. What
He
are
didn't
you?
show up last night, by the way, to our event. So yeah.
Oh,
So
do
we'll
you
get
need
him on
me to
this.
text him?
I'll send him this timestamp.
Well, I'm sorry about that. Maybe it's because he wasted so much time on FaceTime with me the other day.
There you go.
But
Yeah.
we were talking, he was kind of giving me a lecture, saying that I'm wasting my time, I'm wasting opportunity right now by not posting the kind of content that I used to post.
Mm,
And my response to him was, I don't know that that content is relevant, one, to who I am today. I don't know that that content is what I want to put out 10 years later today. Number two, I don't have that same cast of characters, so I have to reinvent that piece of it. And so even creators go through seasons of who am I? How am I going to show up when I come back online? Which version of me am I going to be? And you can choose to craft your story that you put out there.
yeah. You know what's neat about your answers, because I kind of like baited you a little bit there. Be- Because when I defined the creator avatar in my own take, which I haven't pulled off, I do believe creators create, put out, but the good ones almost have no expectation for a while. They're not looking for immediate ROI. It's not like someone who's just great at Facebook or Meta ads that they're like looking for ROAS. They're putting it out, and their whole long-term return is, like you just said, it's my whole business, right? Because it's not just meant to create views. It's not create a CTA, which, for other things. It's literally it's this buildup that now has lasted 10 years among that first journey, and you're about to roll out season 2 or 3 or 4, whatever mountain you feel like you're on. Um, but like, so you must go through moments though where you're like you're just dead in the water in terms of creativity, right? And like how do you kind of get out of that funk, knowing that like that's what built a lot of where you're at and a lot of how people remember you, which thankfully they do, why you've built a great network, why you keep doing all these things. A lot of realtors don't get remembered, period. Right. We know
Yeah.
the stats about, it's not that they didn't want to use your realtor again. It's like they forgot the name of the realtor 5 years from now.
Right. In order to get out of a creative funk, I have to put myself in a situation that allows me to think in a creative setting. And so whether that means intentionally like going and sitting quietly in a room and watching some things that fire my brain. So if I'm wanting to make something funny, I know I need to watch funny content for a little while. If I'm wanting to do something serious, I don't need to watch anything at all. I need to be quiet and go for a long walk or take a super long shower. Like it's funny, like the white noise of a shower. A lot of people get creative ideas when they're showering, and it's because it's that white noise that makes you think that way. And if I know that I just need to think creatively around enhancing my business, then that's a whole different setting. I go to a lot of events. I go to a lot of events every
Right.
year, which also has worked very well for me in my business. But I would say, like, just on the creative side, like, take a minute. What are you wanting to create? If you're wanting to create funny short form content, well, then you better start going online and looking at things that make you laugh and get in that laughing mood and be in a fun and funny mood. And you also have to know, like, what is the message you're wanting to get out there? Because even though my stuff would be super funny or silly, like you mentioned using the tiny hands. I used the tiny hands as a way to catch people's attention. It also was an SNL thing. I think I picked that up from SNL. But I knew that I wanted to catch people's attention, but I always would have a message to convey with the tiny hands, depending on what I was doing with them. Whether it was, I would use them to, when I very first used them, I was sitting in a new construction home, sick to death of sitting in this house every single weekend. It was huge. It was not selling. And I was like, okay, how do I get some eyeballs on this for the builder? And I'm like, it's a huge house. It's a huge house. Like, how do I show this huge house? And I just had this concept of why not show a huge house with tiny hands, going around the
And you went
house.
for it.
And I did. And did I get hate on my feed? Yeah, for sure. Did agents think I'm stupid? Oh, for sure. But this is one of the things I think that maybe makes me a little different from a lot of people is I just have confidence because I know myself. I'm not stupid. Like I am
Right.
an attorney. Like I know what it took to go through law school and take the bar and work as a lawyer. And so maybe because I have that in my background, I'm a little more willing to do stupid stuff because
Because
I'm not
it's
afraid if
thought through.
people think that I'm stupid. Like, great, judge me. You can think I'm stupid. That's fine. I know I'm not, you
How about
know?
from the consumer side when you do that? So sometimes you do some of these funny things and you worry, I'm selling, you said I've had luxury listings early on, and you've got this little kiddo who at that time was 3 or probably 4 years old
Yeah.
speaking. Did you worry about the seriousness like that people would see you as like
No,
no, and or did they
no.
just or that's all in somebody's head and you really those clients saw it
Most of
as
those,
valuable?
yeah. At that time, most of my business was coming from my sphere. And so most of my sphere knew who I was and knew my
Yeah,
background and knew that have a very serious side. But at the same time, I also, while I was making a lot of that funny content, every single week, I did a Facebook Live on Monday mornings that would be very serious.
mm,
Right. And so while I was putting out that fun and funny content, I was still putting a mix of things out and showing all the different elements of who I am.
totally.
And I just think, if you want a super stiff client that can't get over the fact that you're going to do something fun or funny for marketing, great. Those are not the right clients for me then. Those clients are going to be a pain in your butt to work with, and you're going to have to work really hard to get that commission.
Do you think in today's world with crazy online noise, all the stuff, creator economy growth, everybody's supposed to be on social, everybody's supposed to go viral, like everybody's just like that's what every realtor hopes. So there's the creator avatar that we've kind of defined. You can just unpacking your thought pattern throughout this. People get that that's who you are. And then there's the realtors that are like the hobbyist creator. They're like, I kind of like feel like I have to do something that will cut through the noise. And they just like slap something together to slap it together. There's a reason why your stuff will exceed view count and then theirs will die on the vine. Like, is there also this moment? I feel there's this moment where some of us don't have to play that role and feel like online creation is for a different reason. It's not for growth. It's probably just for keeping in front of our people. And you can create with a different level of expectation. Just create and use the platforms to just be in front of, not blow up and go beyond your current like view, followership. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Um, I study other creators and other business coaches a lot and people that are coaching people to get online sales. And there's one coach that I really resonate with. Actually, he's not really a coach, but okay, so there's this podcast called The Diary of a CEO, Stephen Bartlett.
So good.
Yep. And he had on one day, he had on this guy onto his podcast. His name is David Priestley, who is like a marketing wizard. It was probably about a year ago, this podcast, if somebody's looking for it. And in that podcast, he basically said that you can have a much stronger financial result from a very small audience if you are just niche targeting those people and putting out content that they actually want to see versus stressing out about hitting the masses with a more bland message.
Right.
And so it's funny in all of the content posted, I never really worried about going viral. I always just cared like that a couple people that would see it that would really enjoy it. And because of that, then I started attracting more of my tribe. And then it did get shared a lot because I think it just was really authentic to who I was instead of worrying so much. And so in this day and age, showing up online and worrying about going viral and worrying about all the time with the algorithms are constantly changing. You can't keep up with it. You just got to put you mentioned two things in that question, but you also said like just slapping something together to get it out there. I have never been that person, and
Mhm.
that maybe that is where I'm a little different. I am a little bit of a perfectionist, and sometimes I'll stew in my perfectionism and not put anything out because to me, I would rather put out a few pieces of high quality content per month than put out daily or multiple times a day crap that's going to get me unfollowed with that little unfollow button. And so I would rather see people take a minute and think about this. It is important. It is your business. It does reflect on who you are when you put content out online. And so I have always been anti Gary V. That's not a very popular thing to say. I like him and that's what he's doing has worked really well for himself, but I have never taken that as my philosophy.
Right. Just more, 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 as much as you
I
can
think
and
at one point
have
he was
more.
like, you need to be posting 12 pieces of content a day, you know. And you could do that in your stories. You could totally do that in your stories. People won't go all the way to the end of your stories, but it's just
Yeah.
never who I've been.
Totally. Looking 3 to 5 years out with the creative journey for you, you're living the life that the creative actions you took 7, 8, 9 years ago are still paying you dividends. Looking forward to the next round, knowing AI is coming, knowing that the biggest creators are creating at the Gary V volume and more. Where do you see the opportunity for agents with creativity, with the creative, the personal brand, the journey, and maybe even mix in whatever you think, which angle you might be taking, because there's a lot changing.
Oh my gosh. So I'm going to give you the answer that no one else is going to give you. I
Well,
think
good,
people
because you're
are
the only one that I gave asked this question to. So,
I think people are way relying way too heavily on AI. And when I look through social with my kids sitting behind me or looking over my shoulder, they immediately can tell if it's real or fake. Almost immediately. It's funny. The kids can tell and they don't like AI. They don't want to watch AI stuff.
mm,
And I think we're going to see this evolution of people craving real, people craving authentic, people craving humanity. And so my response, my response to that is I'm going to see what everyone else is doing. And then you're probably going to watch me go in an extreme opposite of it. And that's just how I live my life.
yeah,
I don't do that stuff. Like I'm an unusual realtor woman. I don't color my hair. I don't do eyelashes. I don't do Botox. I didn't paint my nails for a long time. They're painted right now. But like I usually watch what everybody else is doing. And I'm like, okay, if they're all doing that, I know how I can stand out. I'm going to go do the other thing.
sure.
Right. And so while everybody is out there posting 15 pieces of content per day that AI wrote for them and whatnot, I would rather post like twice a month. This is terrible, but I'd rather post twice a month with something genuine that I truly wrote, that was my idea, that I came up with, that I'm putting out there. Because I think humans are going to be able to tell, okay, was it written or not?
I mean, if you think about the people that are consuming our content, they're going mind numb as well, right? They're just constantly getting hit by all the stuff from it's not just their realtor that they're following, it's everybody else is hitting them a zillion ways, and all of those people are ramping up. So yeah, I could see it, right? Where that if you did do quality, they're gonna be like, that's I don't mind hearing from Noelle a couple times a month because I'm just getting smammered with all this other stuff, and it's the true Noelle. And because we can't win the volume game. Like, why
No.
bother trying? It's not for some people, like, get jacked about that. It's like, yes, like I'm all in and that's their path. But again, we're speaking to the realtor community here. 99.5% of them are not that person,
Yeah.
right? We have real shit to do, not always online shit, right?
Yeah. Well, and I mean, AI serves its purpose, and I think it's an amazing tool for so many different things. And I do see some agents are having crazy success with AI and creating their AI avatar and their AI voice and doing their script. And that's great. That's just not what I'm gonna do because
Sure.
that's just not who I am. I can't do that.
You've never been scared to like share publicly just tough things, like things that maybe people would say not to, right? You know, like where it's been, faith, right? Faith is a huge part of your world, right? You've gone through some major changes. How much does that play a part in your personal brand and just making sure? And if you were sharing that to others who just really haven't found their voices or trying to find the layers that they might be holding behind, are there things where you put guardrails around to say no, and then some that are like, no, this is a big part of me, and it's okay that I'm getting it out there.
I would say that for me, there's usually an undertone of faith in almost everything that I post. There's an undertone, or it's just screaming in your face, because this life is just a short one. We have a life of eternity that we need to face after this life, and that one is the most important to me. And I don't ever want to get to the pearly gates and be told that I didn't live in my purpose or share when I was supposed to. So that's an easy no-brainer for me. Has it resulted in lost business? Maybe, yeah. Have I had agents come and tell me that they don't want to partner with me because of it? Yes, absolutely. And I'm okay with that too. Like
Sure.
that tells me that I am living in the purpose that I know that I am supposed to be living in.
Mm,
And if you are truly a person of faith, you can know that you're not going to just be left in the pit. You're going to be pulled out of it, right? And so if you are living how you're supposed to be living and sharing what you're supposed to be sharing, God's not going to like just leave you hanging. He will pull you out of your pit and put you into a new place. But sometimes it takes time and patience. Things that I don't share as much as I used to, I don't share about my kids as much as I used to. I'm starting to realize that they have a say
mm,
in what they what gets posted about them online, and some of them don't like it. And anything that you put online, it's there for forever. Even if you delete it, it can still show up in searches.
sure.
And so I don't share as much about my family. I'm trying to figure out navigating like sharing enough so that people feel like they know me without sharing everything that they feel like they know when I'm on vacation or they know where I am at any given moment, right? I've
Yeah.
seen some of my friends online. One of my friends shared he's in the real estate industry, what very well known. He shared that while he was gone, and he had been posting in his stories that he was gone, his house got robbed.
Hmm.
His luxury cars were gone when he got home. His watches were all gone. His safe got broken into. And I have a husband that loves being private about life. And so it's trying to find that balance of like, okay, being authentically who you are, sharing what you have going on, being interesting
Yeah,
while still maintaining privacy. It's a very interesting and difficult balance.
totally. I mean, it's something we all figure out. I think you're right, go through seasons. I've tried to not just like almost like exploit the kids and their cuteness and transition it to like I want my people to know I'm a dad and I'm a proud dad and I get to do
Yeah.
dad things and spouse. But like if I can share, like I'll share stories that resonate really well where like I totally fucked up, right? As
Yeah.
a dad. And it's like that kind of stuff. So it's like Darren is a dad, right? He's my kind of guy. And okay, he was willing to open up about that, but it's not like he was blasting endless photos about Bentley. You know what I mean? It
Yeah.
was more just
Yeah.
like, I know Bentley's a swimmer, and people will come up to me, that story you told
Yeah.
about that, it hit me. But then they don't know everything about Bentley, right?
Right.
And those
Yeah.
kind of things. So
Yep. Exactly. I think back like, oh, thank God my parents didn't have social media when I was growing up. Like,
yeah,
oh.
totally.
And when you think about it from your kid's perspective in that way, it is interesting. It's a different dynamic that humanity hasn't ever had to deal with.
If you could leave people, we're right near the end here. If we could leave one sentence for the agent or a sentence or two, who knows that they're a creator at heart, like this is really feeling it, like they're getting
Mhm.
your message, they're understanding it, but they're just frozen. They're frozen. They don't like, how do they move forward out of that mode and like have that courage? Anything that comes to mind? I'm sure you've shared this many times to people.
I would just say at some point you have to get out of that mode and do the actual activity of creating, even if it's just to create something for yourself. I would say that any creator in real estate that's truly like a true creator, like they're trying to make really unique, authentic content, you will talk to them and they will have a million videos that they never posted, things that they never posted, but at least they made the video. They
Right.
took the video, they did the thing, they made the piece of content. And you can create too with photos. I mean, don't forget that creating can be around writing and using photos to put your thoughts and your feelings out there. But at some point, you have to do it. And if it's just fear of what others are going to think about you that's holding you back, all right, well, you just got to get past that.
Sure.
You just have to do it. You just have to post the thing. And reinvention is always okay. Like if you post it and it's not working, okay, go back to the drawing board, try it again, like do something new.
Right. Facebook has been a platform for you that's been very strong on all fronts, like from your growth within Real Broker and the RevShare organization you've had, where like I've spoken to big YouTube folks and we've talked to just, I'm all Instagram and TikTok, but Facebook has been a pretty strong core. Is that fair to say for you?
Yeah, it has up until like this last year. I'd say Facebook was kind of my number one place. And it still probably is, but I am now finding more advantages to being on Instagram than I had before. I think Facebook has done a few things over this last year where there's so many ads in the feed. They're now showing just as many videos in the feed as Instagram was, where you're going through and it's
Yeah.
just it's not the same as it was. And so I have now migrated more of my personal time when I'm online actually over to Instagram to look at other things that people are doing, look at other and the cool part about Instagram is you can just follow who you like and what you like and you don't have to see other people's things that you don't want to see. But from a community standpoint, I still think Facebook is relevant because it just doesn't have that same opportunity on Instagram to like create those deeper relationships that you can through Facebook.
Yeah, I feel that too. All right, well, let's try to like put a few, took a few notes as we were going through, a few threads to this. I think your story tells people a few things about the creator avatar. One of them I wrote down is not just about making things look good, and it's about building a world that people want to like consume and be a part of. Minnesotan comes to mind, right? Like you've built this thing where people want that like tribe-like vibe, right? By going social, by going Facebook, by doing these things, it's not like you just abandoned traditional real estate fundamentals, right? It was just a different way, I think, for you to express it. And you did it in a lot of fun ways, right?
Mhm.
And I also wrote, this is not for the faint of heart because like visibility without that conviction to keep going, it can breed a really wacky space. So you just to have that, like that conviction that you're not just putting out noise and there's a true beat behind this for you, right? Um, Anything else come to mind as we get near the end here?
Oh my gosh, we've covered so much ground. I would just say if you're feeling overwhelmed or distracted or whatnot, don't be afraid to take a break too.
Mm,
If you now would be a great time to take a break. Coming into
Right.
like the holiday season, end of the year, like take a week, take 2 weeks, take 3 weeks off of social media. You will be so much refreshed when you come back on, and you may come up with a whole bunch of ideas actually while you're offline.
Totally. If you see yourself in this, if you feel the pull toward storytelling, toward brand development, toward creating for real, like for you, not just like this, like, post to post type mode, your next step is not like, how do I go viral, right? That's what we want them to leave, right? I think the other thing I wrote down is design. Your next step is design. And you put a lot of thought in those quiet moments around like, not just design for logo, but design for like who you are, what you do, so that like there are some guardrails around what you want to post. There is a rhythm that you're willing to like go after. Design a way for your creativity to feel like real conversations, right? And not replace the ones that you have in real life, but like real, because when you follow what you've done, people will feel closer to you. It's like they're conversing with you, and it isn't fake. So that's what I like to get across in my whole journey is building a business by design, not
Yep.
by default, right? I've my Rome brand, which means realtors on a mission. And it's a fun play on words because roaming actually means wandering aimlessly, right? But I like it to flip it that we're on a mission. And I can tell that, of course, you've gone through this season, and this has been such a cool talk to hear you unpack all three of these mountains that you're on. And it will be interesting to see. So, where do people go now, today, to just be a part of your world? Like, was the best place to just stay in touch with you and connect and just watch this journey unfold?
Yeah, it's probably easiest to find me on Instagram with my handle Noelle the Minnesotan. And you'll find me there. That's the easiest place to go.
Amazing. Well, thank you for doing this. I know you're a busy lady. Thank you for telling your story, sharing some moments of like courage for these folks, because it's not easy to just press post all this time and to do that. So, and bring this kind of creator world into a real conversation. I think a lot of people took a lot out of it. So, to you listening, your voice matters. We're all different. We're not Noel's. We're not, we're all our own people. So create the thing, I think you would say the thing, ship the damn thing. And I guess I'll see you guys on the next episode. So thanks again, Noelle.
Yeah, thank you.